First of all, there was actually two incidents that occurred yesterday. The first incident occurred just shortly after 3 p.m. where Mr. Walker had went into the business there. Mr. Walker was causing a problem, and Beasley staff did ask Mr. Walker to leave. They did place a phone call to Cushing PD, and officer did respond. Prior to their arrival, Mr. Walker did leave the scene without any kind of incident. Mr. Walker was contacted by Cushing police officers at a neighboring business, and was asked not to go back down there to Beasley Technology, which he agreed. At that point, he was released, and the officers went back about their job. It was shortly after 4:30 that we received a second phone call from Beasley Technology saying that Mr. Walker had been back down there and forced his way into the building, and that he and other employees from Beasley Technology were actually in a physical altercation.
What connection does Mr. Walker have to Beasley, or was this just a random place he chose?
It's just a place that he chose. My understanding from speaking to the owner of Beasley Technology is that they had no knowledge of Mr. Walker prior to the first incident at 3:10 when he came in the building.
Can you tell us what he was doing at the first incident? Was he causing trouble? Was he saying things?
He was causing trouble, basically accusing them of stealing some of his items, I believe, was the actual incident that was going on down there, even though they had no knowledge of him prior to that.
Okay, and then when he came back in at 4:30, he had a weapon. Tell us about that weapon and what happened.
He did. My understanding is that he had some form of a box knife, styled razor blade knife, at which point during the fight, we do know that at least one individual, maybe two individuals, have injuries that would be consistent with that form of a cutting instrument. The employees were able to take him to the ground and get him on the ground and able to subdue him until law enforcement was able to get there and get him into cuffs.
Did they explain to you, like when he first came in, what he did? I mean, did he just basically come in and brandish the knife right away, or did something happen?
He actually came and started kicking the doors, trying to force his way into it. My understanding is employees were trying to hold the doors shut at this point, and he was yelling and screaming at them, making threats to kill them, and obviously he was able to gain access into the building, and that's where the fight initially started, was inside the building, and then ultimately ended up going outside into the front walkway area.
In the Beasley email that they kind of sent out to people, they claimed that two or four of their employees were injured in this incident.
We know that there were 4 individuals involved. 2 of them received wounds that were consistent with that of a knife. 2 of the other ones received injuries that were consistent with a physical altercation, scrapes, bruises, that matter.
But they're going to be okay.
That is correct.
And it looks like Mr. Walker sustained some injuries as well.
He did. Obviously, at the time when they seen the knife, they were fighting for their life. So, they used the manners necessary for them to number one, protect themselves, protect their other employees, and to try to get him out of the building and subdue him from law enforcement.
Has the Cushing Police Department had other run-ins with Mr. Walker, and what have they been?
Yeah, we've had several instances with Mr. Walker over the last probably 2 to 3 weeks, where he's been out doing kind of a similar thing, going into businesses, basically harassing employees. Not quite to this level, obviously, but enough to concern businesses, especially in the downtown area.
And this isn't a transient or a homeless man. He actually has a home in Cushing. Do we know anything about his background?
He does live here. He has lived here for several years. And like I said, we have some issues, or have had some issues with him in the past. There may be some mental issues in there as well that need to be probably looked at and addressed as well. But we have arrested him on a couple different occasions in the past, most recently within the last probably 2 weeks on a outstanding Payne County warrant.
I did look him up on OSCN, and I saw that there was, I guess, a domestic abuse back last year that he had been arrested and charged in this particular case. Even though he was jailed on assault and battery with intent to kill, they're going to charge him with 2 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. The charges just came down.
They did just come down, and we just found that out prior to you coming into the building today. It looks like his bond has currently been set at $75,000.
Yeah, I've got that in our story as well.
They did reduce down charges that we originally sent over, which were the 3 counts of assault and battery with intent to kill.
Were they, so those are probably the 2 people that were injured in the case. Were those men, women who were injured?
I believe they were all men.
What other businesses in town, or what other individuals in town has he been?
I know he's been to the Big Four building. I know that
Do we know what the reason was for him to
He
have
just-
issues there?
He's just wandering around talking to whoever will listen. I know that yesterday he was at Deep Rock Energy, talking to those individuals, and I've
But
spoken to them.
any issues there?
They allowed him to rant and
Okay.
to talk and
Okay.
claims, I mean, obviously he's got a lot of visions of grandeur of himself, that he's told me personally that he's.
Does he have a
before,
job?
He's a prince and he's the most wealthiest man in the
Lord,
world.
yeah,
and,
he's
Okay.
lost his marbles.
And,
Yeah.
Not necessarily something that we could take him into protective custody for,
Is he
Except that
married,
it's bothering
or-
other people.
except that he's bothering other people.
I'm assuming this domestic, that he's no longer with his wife that he married a few years back.
I think that was on a girlfriend.
Okay.
If I remember right.
Is
and
he single?
I don't believe that they're together.
Okay, so Deep Rock Energy, where else?
He's been, I'm trying to remember where all we've had dealings with him. Obviously, he's been to the Bank of Cushing. I know he's been down there. And then, I mean, he's just wandered in and out of businesses.
So
And a lot
even
of
just
the
on that
last
strip?
few days.
Some of them don't. It's been going on for probably 2 weeks.
Okay, so like yesterday, who did he visit
Uh,
yesterday?
Maverick Mini Mart. Is another
Maverick.
one.
Mini
uh,
Mart. Where's that?
Down on,
There's several of them in
yeah,
town, probably
it's
one.
the Cherry Street.
Cherry
one.
Street.
Cherry
Yeah.
Street.
What's the suspect's name? What's his full name?
Joel Otto Walker.
Joel Otto Walker.
Yeah,
And he's been in Cushing for a long time.
He's been here for several years, yes.
Okay.